Hello and welcome, beautiful sky watchers, to your wish upon Aldebaran, star magic grimoire angel Azariel, acquiring potency and magical power during lunar mansion number 4, which is the follower of the Pleiades. Magic rituals and spells hold sway over events for devastation of structures, towns, water sources, or scheming fortune hunters. Also, tethering or eradicating noxious creatures, dangerous or poisonous, venomous kinds of beasts, and causing conflicts betwixt married couples. Now, this is a very serious and in some cases grim lunar mansion that has much application for military campaigns or, for people that just want to get revenge and those kind of things. So understand that. It's a very serious mansion, number 4. So this is the horoscope, your wish upon a star horoscope. When Luna voyages through the 4th lunar mansion, dwelling in the middle portion of the sign of Taurus the bull, bringing frenzied imports, elemental issues, hatred, as we mentioned, malice, encumbrances, and arguments. Lunar Mansion 4 is magically activated when Luna transits this mansion of the moon. Use projective magic during a waxing moon on her increase, or receptive magic in the course of a waning moon on her decrease. In the time of a new moon, either complete receptive magic spells just before the new moon occurs or begin projective magic rituals just after the new moon. For the time of the full moon, either complete projective magic rituals just before the full moon occurs or begin these kind of receptive magic spells just after the full moon. So this is how you would go ahead and utilize your magic for various phases of the moon. I'm Pastor Rosemary, the Astrology Angel. Thank you for joining us. I'm a Rosicrucian seer, biblical astrologer, Christian psychic, and Gnostic mystic. And this is Readings by Rosemary, angelic transmission. Now, Luna will be in Taurus at 8 degrees, 34 minutes, and 17 seconds to Taurus 21 degrees, 25 minutes, and 40 seconds, according to Abraham. Also, the star to wish upon inside the 4th mansion of the moon, Aldebaran, is named Aldebaran. So the name of the mansion, Aldebaran, is very similar to the name of the star, Aldebaran, okay, that dwells as the follower of the Pleiades. This is according to Warnock. And yes, you're hearing right. You're hearing right. This sounds very much like Aldebaran, in the Star Wars movie. And the movie, there were scenes that were based on this mansion. When Princess Leia was captured and by the Death Star, and she was in a confinement, and they brought in like a robot that had an injection on it. That is a sort of mechanical version of the icon of this mansion. And that was an intense scene, and there was a devastation of her planet. So it was based on that. And yes, it sounds very much like it, because this is what they used, okay, for that scene anyway. Because usually in movies they use like several lunar mansions right in a row. But this one was certainly used in that scene. So in case you thought your ears were, you heard something familiar, you did hear something familiar, it was used. Okay, they use it in Hollywood all the time. TV shows, commercials, social media, plays, the Bible, all kinds of holy works. They all use lunar mansions because they're very ancient. Now, ask the angel of Alpha-Tauri, the star, also called Aldebaran, okay, Alpha-Tauri, who is named Azariel. That's the angel's name, Azariel, to destroy all things venomous towards you or those you love. Sorceresses and sorcerers create representations to annihilate specific structures, okay, so they pinpoint specific, also that's just the specific buildings and that kind of thing, but also municipalities and towns. They obliterate, as we said, specific like structures or buildings, and they also decimate water sources and fortune hunters that search for buried riches or buried treasures. And they also tether and or eradicate, completely get rid of dangerous or noxious creatures, those that are poisonous or dangerous, and cause conflict between married couples. Okay, so again, it can be used for much vengeance and much devastation. Understand that, okay? I know that's a perfume, devastation, right? Okay. All right. Now, to persuade Azariel to grant you the powers of rancor and animosity to use as you will to get the powers of that, a rendering of a combatant mounted upon his charger carrying a viper in his right hand is recommended by Warnock. Now, see, in that movie, Star Wars movie, the robot was the horse and the viper was the injection. And the reason we know this, the syringe with the injection in it to interrogate Princess Leia, okay? The reason we know this is if you want to look at Zecharia Sitchin's books, he talks about how the Bible is based on ancient Sumerian tablets, okay? And how these ancient Sumerian tablets talk about that in the Garden of Eden, the serpent is a syringe and the poison is the medicine, and that putting Adam to sleep is anesthesia, and removing, the rib is a surgical procedure performed by a female doctor, much like Dr. Beverly Crusher on Star Trek, okay? The Next Generation. So and removing the rib and then creating another being out of it, or maybe it has to do with ribonucleic acid, RNA. But it's a intense scientific, when it used to be that in ancient Sumeria, they had the power to cause war with atomic bombs and things like that, or something maybe even more powerful than that. And it's in the ancients might have had weapons and technology more than what we have now. So a lot of what we see in the media are all very much about these kind of ancient stories and legends. Mythology is based on legends, on real things that happen. All right? So just keep that in mind. That doesn't come out of nowhere. That comes from reading Zecharia Sitchin's books, like the 12th Planet and those kind of books. It has a lot of them, and I would suggest you read them if you're interested in that kind of thing. Very interesting. Now, regarding this lunar mansion, to persuade the angel Azariel to grant you the powers of rancor and animosity to use as you will, a rendering, of the mounted on the horse was not only said by Warnock, but was also talked about by Agrippa in his book, which is it's in the 1500s. He wrote a book, and it describes the fourth lunar mansion as being named Aldebaran with an M instead of an N on the end, or Aldelamen, recommending supplication towards Azariel to go ahead and unleash and allow poison, bitterness, estrangement, and reprisals, lex talionis, the Latin term lex talionis, reprisals, bitterness, poison, estrangement, upon enemies of the supplicant, using similar to Warnock icon of the warrior riding a steed, wielding a snake in his right hand. See, it's Agrippa mentions that in his 3 books of occult philosophy. You can pick that up from Llewellyn as a publisher, okay? And Warnock mentions in his book on lunar mansions, astrology, and magic, and you want to pick that up by Christopher Warnock, or you want to pick the one up by Agrippa, okay? Now, it's a very intense lunar mansion, and I believe it's the Prince of Cups, especially in the Crowley deck, has that image, okay? And some of the other decks do as well. The prince riding on a horse, holding a snake in his hand. And see, the tarot cards, they say they don't know where the tarot cards came from. They come from the images of the lunar mansions. They just don't want to tell you that. Everything comes from lunar mansions, and they use it excessively in sales, in advertising, marketing, completely everything you see in videos, on television, especially people that, are in the know, always use it. And it's been used in plays, books, holy books, paintings since beginning of time. So just understand that. And if you don't want to use something that has this type of application, you should at least know about it so that you can steer your family in the right direction. If someone's using it against you, so you can recognize it. Because the way this comes into play, the way you make this happen is you do it over and over. You display it over and over and over and over. You let people see it. You play it over and over so they watch it over and over. And the bigger your audience, the more widespread your audience, the larger your numbers, and the more you say that, either you describe it or you show, a scene with that in it, or you write it in a book, whatever you're doing, the more they're exposed to it. And the bigger your audience, the more powerful the magic is. All right, so understand that. So then you can steer your family in the right direction so that you can do well, you and your family, you and your community can do well, whether it's a good or bad magic that's being used, whether it's more of a positive lunar mansion or more of a negative lunar mansion, you can still do well. And all things work together for good for those who love God and serve His purpose, as the good book says. So you can use these things for good or evil. It's just a tool. But knowledge is power. And tradition is momentum. Don't forget that. Now, for magical purposes intended to cause such division, retribution, malice, and antagonism, ancient magicians fashioned the emblem of the equestrian charging upon his mount, brandishing a serpent in his right hand, into an insignia formed of wax. They use wax, possessing a red color. Sometimes they use metals, but this one they use wax, a red wax, to be, explicit. Now, additionally, to increase the potency of the magical talisman even further, the reddened wax symbol was scented with the aromas of red myrrh as well as storax. So the aroma has to be of that kind of retribution also, red myrrh and storax. Okay. Now, according to Kabbalistic lore, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Taurus birthstone is emerald. Now, that's for generalization, okay? But for the specific lunar mansion, based on the specific star, we are going to get into what the ancients said you should use for metals and gemstones for specific planets ruling that specific indicator star or pointer star, as Agrippa and Warnock like to mention. So just understand that there's the generalization that Taurus is ruled by Venus, and you can use emerald. Nevertheless, there are also metals you can use for your talismans, and there's also other gemstones that can be used because of the planetary association of the star, this particular star. So here we go. Rosaries. Rosaries have a magical function. Go figure. You understand? Okay. And amulets. Rosaries are basically talismans. And amulets using emerald for Taurus are magically potent for this praxis. Kabbalistic and alchemical planetary associations, in this instance, when the moon is in Taurus, while transiting through lunar mansion number 4, you could be utilize these things with perfumes, essential oils, herbs, or flowers, as well as colors. Planetary associations, magical associations. Now, planetary alchemical metals in this case would indicate copper for Venus. All right? Copper is practical and workable for this operation. Regarding the Taurus birthstone of emerald, this could be used for an amulet talisman as well as rosary beads made of emerald. So you can use for the amulet or the rosary beads or the magical jewelry for gemstone jewelry, okay, when you make any kind of ring or bracelet or necklace for yourself. And this could also be used for also fashioning an amulet base, okay? The copper can be used for fashioning the amulet base, the forming of a rosary chain, or for jewelry settings. Now, Agrippa discloses that for Mantle of the Moon number 4, the ancients traditionally made an insignia, again, of red wax for the purpose of rendering an icon of the soldier grasping the snake in his right hand that we mentioned is used by the magicians as a magical talisman for the Mantle of the Moon called Aldebaran or Aldelamen by Agrippa, or Aldebaran, that is by Warnock, for the clear intention of causing hatred, vengeance, cruelty, and disconnection, breaking apart. Red wax is not an alchemical metal and appears to be an unbiased choice regarding a material to use in the forming of a magical talisman. The color of red, however, is actually, as to the hue of the wax, serves to mimic the reddened tint characteristic of the Venusian metal copper. Okay, there's that reddish copper. One possible reason for the use of red wax is summed up when we take a close look at some of the traditional planetary associations for the star. The star that is named Aldebaran, also named Alpha-Tauri, which we're talking about, okay? Recognize that Venus possesses attributes dealing with relationships, and that on the negative side of the Venusian frequency is found a poisonous nature, which makes sense when we consider the aforementioned customary image meant to be shaped into the talisman. It is important to note here that according to Vivian Irwin Robson, author of the book The Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, the Greek astronomer Ptolemy gives the precise planetary attributes to stars located in various portions of the constellation of the Bull. For the location of the watery rose-colored star Aldebaran being at the right eye of the bull's head, Ptolemy hints that this star is akin in personality to Mars. Mars, okay? Now that's the opposite of Venus, but see, for general Taurus it's Venus, but for Alpha-Tauri it's Mars, okay? That is, if we use the process of elimination to reason this fact, we arrive at the deduction that Mars is the probable attribute of the star Aldebaran, because Ptolemy states that generally the stars in the head of the constellation of Taurus are similar in disposition to Saturn and somewhat to Mercury, with the exemption of the star Aldebaran. He didn't talk about Aldebaran, he said all the other stars in the head of the bull, okay? Because Ptolemy states that generally that the head has a different attribute than the single star Aldebaran. Now Ptolemy also points out that the stars found at the top of the horns of the bull, okay, right at the tip of the horns, are in similitude with Mars. The stars at the top of the horns of the bull are in similitude with Mars, okay? Understand that. Ptolemy mentioned Venus as being the nature of the stars found in the abscission of Taurus and in the lesser measure to Saturn. Now, since Agrippa reveals red wax as the material with which ancient necromancers created the conventional talisman for mansion named Aldebaran, Aldebaran, or men, the color red in itself gives us another clue pointing towards Mars as being the star Aldebaran's alchemical quality. The alchemical metal for Mars is iron, and iron is realistic and it is realistic and it is usable for this function, since the metal is neither being ingested nor injected in the making of a rosary chain, amulet base, or magical jewelry setting. So, in summary, regarding the mansion of the moon, Aldebaran, the gemstone emerald is potent for use in the creating of rosary beads, amulet ornaments, or jewelry gemstones. On the topic of the metal to be used in the making of rosaries, amulets, or magical jewelry, if the attribute of a seductively venomous Venusian temperament is the intention of the charm, then the alchemical metal of copper for Venus is the metal to select. All right, now, on the other hand, if the quality of martial aggression is the design of the talisman, then the alchemical metal of iron for Mars is the metal of choice for use in the fashioning of rosary chains, amulet bezels, or jewelry settings. Keep in mind that the number assigned to each mansion of the moon may vary, relying upon the cultural and the astrological attributes of the system being used. What pinpoints the exact lunar mansion to which we are referring is made clear by the use of the star to be wished upon, as well as by the name of the indicated mansion of the moon. Other Kabbalistic correspondences for lunar mansion number 4 are as follows. We're going to get into the Taurus, moon in Taurus applications. Moon in Taurus provides qualities of decisiveness, determination, passion, wildness, and spiritual sanctuary, which we all need, and also said to be seekers and obtainers of creature comforts regarding their instructive and instinctive natures. They like to teach people how to really know how to live, and they also like to live well. They're good at teaching people how to do this, and they're also good at really demonstrating how to live well just by their instinct. Now, planetary archangel for Luna or the moon is Gabriel. So we have the beautiful archangel Gabriel. Okay? Gabriel is the archangel that is called God is my strength, power of God, and a messenger of God. This is the planetary archangel of water, all the water signs, but it's also the planetary archangel of Luna or the moon. So it's the elemental, it's the elemental archangel of water. And the planetary archangel of the moon or Luna serves multiple functions. Now, zodiac angel for Taurus is Azariel, whose divine tone is I have. So whereas Aries is I am, Taurus is I have. Gemini is I think, Cancer is I feel, Leo is I will, Virgo is I analyze, Libra is we balance. The only one that's we is Libra. It's a beautiful sign, Libra. Tarot card for Luna or the moon is the High Priestess. And this is the High Priestess card. And it is for the moon. The moon card is not for the moon. The moon card is for Pisces. The High Priestess is the tarot card. The High Priestess is for the planet of the moon. They called the sun and the moon. The ancients called the sun and the moon a planet. The ancient planet, 7 ancient planets. Okay? The Western Array musical note for the moon or Luna is F. And this is the F note. Okay, that's F. And the tarot card for Taurus is the Hierophant. Much like a pope, the Hierophant. Okay? And the Western Array musical note for Taurus is E. Now, the information found in this presentation and in the attached document is based on the oral tradition known as Kabbalah, taught to me by Rosicrucian clergy when I was but a young girl, the facts of which I have committed to memory. And much of the information about star magic was also taught to me through an ancient German pagan coven which had established satellite covens throughout the world. And I began writing a book based upon these extremely important teachings in 1988, which I have entitled to be my Star Magic Grimoire. And I'm presenting it to you. I'd like to mention some of the books once more. Reference books, very important. Mansions of the Moon, A Lunar Zodiac for Astrology and Magic, 2nd edition, with 2019 to 2033 Mansion Ephemeris, written by Christopher Warnock and illustrated by Nigel Jackson, published by Renaissance Astrology. A must-have book. I use it every day. All right, now, secondly, the 3 books of occult philosophy, Llewellyn's source book series, authored by Henry Cornelius Agrippa of Netisham in 1533, translated by James Freak in 1650, edited and annotated by Donald Tyson. And I have a lot of Donald Tyson's books. He did that in 1993. And it's published again by Llewellyn. Now, finally, the third one is A Fixed Stars and Constellations in Astrology, authored by Vivian E. Robson. And he's a Bachelor of Science, and this was in 1923, published by American Federation of Astrologers, Inc. Cover design by Jack Kipola. And those are must-have books. And especially if you're going to learn about lunar mansions or utilize them. Thanks so much for joining us. And please join us again next time. We'll see you soon.